Welcome to the TriMetric Roadmap, powered by Business Freedom Advisors, the podcast for business owners who want to grow their business and enjoy their life. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Landis, creator of the TriMetric tracking system and author of Balancing Act. If you're tired of chasing success at the expense of your health, your marriage, or your peace of mind, you're in the right place. On this show, we help you track what really matters: business health, life quality, and leadership performance, all in one simple, powerful system. Because when those get out of sync, everything else starts to break down. Our goal here is to help you align it all so you can lead with clarity, scale with purpose, and finally enjoy the freedom you've been working so hard to create. And if it feels like no one's ever shown you how to pull that off, this podcast might just be the missing link you've been quietly searching for. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the TriMetric Roadmap Podcast, brought to you by Business Freedom Advisors. I'm your host, Scott Landis. I'm here with Jeff Jacob, and today you're just getting me and Jeff. And we're going to talk about a couple of things. What is the TriMetric Roadmap? What's the deal with that? And part of the TriMetric Roadmap, TriMetric Podcast is we're going to be talking about the Business Health Diagnostic from time to time. So this being kind of the pseudo-official launch of TriMetric Roadmap Podcast and the rebranding of it, we're going to dive into what the heck is the Business Health Diagnostic and why should you care? We're going to be talking about it throughout the series, but today we're going to dive deep into it. And who better to talk about the Business Health Diagnostic than Jeff Jacob, who has been an integral part of the redesign. We've had it before Jeff came along, but he has taken it to another level, and it is, like I like to call it, a business valuation on steroids and then some. What's beyond steroids? I don't even know. Welcome, Jeff. Glad you're here with me. How are you today?
Good, Scott. Thank you. Yeah, it's easy to redesign something that's already great. So just to add a couple SKUs to it is all I've really done. And it maybe beyond steroids, what's that? Human growth hormone? Some HGH in there?
Yes. It might even have some stem cells mixed in, like it's got some healing properties. It's all in there. Woo!
Very impressive.
Well, yeah, and since you mentioned it's a redesign, I want to just give a shout to one of the co-creators of TriMetric and the Business Health Diagnostic, my friend and mentor, Doug Magnuson. If he's listening, I just want him to feel acknowledged and know that I appreciate him still to this day, even though he's been doing other things these days, but he was a big part of it. All right, well, let's dive in. We're trying something new. We're gonna stick to these 8-minute segments and do what the pros do. And so we got about 5 minutes on the clock. And first, I just wanted to start with why. I love Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why. And that's a good book for a reason, because that's a good principle to do. Start with the why, start with the purpose. Why are we doing this? Why is there a business health diagnostic? But before you dive into that, Jeff, why are you even qualified to talk on this? I want to start with that. We're going to probably talk about a deep dive of where you came from and where I came from, and experience of Business Freedom Advisors on other episodes. But today I just want to say, okay, give a 30 to 60-second version of, like, who are you and why should we care what you say about business health?
Well, Scott and I have been working together for a long time in various different roles of life, various different positions. And for both of us, our heart in everything we've done has been to help people find freedom. And we both have a little bit different SKUs on that. And I come from a ministry background as well as business ventures. And I've started a few different entities, helped a few different entities become more than they used to be, have more cash flow, better operations, depending on whatever the goal is for that owner, that founder. And for me, the SKU I put on the freedom is that I think that the organization has to be founded on who the founder is. And we have to go with who they are to honor who they are, acknowledge that, and realize that that organization wouldn't be what it is. No matter what faults it has or anything, it wouldn't be the benefit that it is without who that person is. So we have to start there. And my heart really is to help those founders be able to find the freedom to be able to live in their giftings, to live in the benefit of who they are, and really be freed in that, and to find ways to manage around their weaknesses and to figure that out in alternative ways. And
Mm,
so that's really why I have put some of the spins on the BHD that I have, is to help people just be able to live in who they are.
mm, mm. Yep. And then just real quick, my 2 cents on who you are and why people should care about your voice in this. Um, so uh, I think business leaders, depending on if they are churchgoers or not, probably have different ideas about um, ministry and pastors and church organizations. They are very much run like a business, some of them are better than others, as Jeff could testify to. Um, but what I've noticed specifically about about you, Jeff, is you're entrepreneurial. You've been entrepreneurial as long as I've known you. You think creatively. You're an outside the box thinker. You're open to new ideas. You you are very creative, and so those creative and entrepreneurial things that I think anybody listening to this podcast would vibe with, that's right there. And you've been really smart with money. You've done great things in real estate, great things in business. I've seen you like even like, you know, buy, fix, and sell cars. I don't even know all the things you've done, but anytime I'm asking you what you're up to, you've always got something. You got your hands in several different ventures, and you've helped other businesses, and you've certainly, being an executive pastor for years, you definitely have done great things at the church level. So much so that, and maybe we have another episode about what you do for nonprofits and churches, because that's a whole nother like layer. Uh, but anything to add to that? So that's kind of been my experience knowing you.
Yeah, I early on I felt a call to ministry. I was at the Honors College at U of O doing in the pre-med program, and then felt a call to go into the nonprofit ministry world. And but I also didn't want to let I never want to let a lack of resources limit the vision for where I can go,
Mm.
or where one can go. And I want to always try to remove, whether it's fear or resource or whatever, remove limitations of how I can be used or what I can do in the world. And I believe that for everybody. And so that's a big part of the BHD to me too, is it really is a litmus test for looking at where are the limitations, how can we bust through those and not let those hurdles really limit us from where we can go.
All right, fantastic. Well, enough about us and kind of the heart and the why behind it. Let's take a quick break and then we will come back and we'll talk about how you can get involved, what would be the interview process that we go through, and what would be the results that you might see. All right, welcome back. Jeff, we just talked about why it's important, why the BHD is important, why the business health diagnostic is important to business owners. Why do you love it? Why is it something that you are very excited about and passionate about? What your background was. Also, now let's go into what does one of our clients experience. And we just had a case study that we could maybe speak to recently of a client that kind of came into the interview and was kind of wowed and very enthusiastic about the process. But walk through the process, like start to finish, like how does one get started if they're interested in having a business health diagnostic, and then where does it go from there?
So it can start with the trimetric test. The, um,
Ooh, shout out to TrimetricQuiz.com. That's a great place to get started. TrimetricQuiz.com. That's the freebie. Go get that. That's a holistic view of where you're at as a leader in your business health and your life quality.
It starts with a Trimetric quiz, and then it can go into an interview that we do one-on-one. We use certain elements of technology, but have that human touch with it, where it really is digging into and evaluating every aspect of the organization as far as we can in an interview. And it produces different ratings based on, we've spread out into 7 different categories, and it gives a rating in each one of those categories. And there's multiple levers within those categories that we want to rate that comes up with an overall category rating. And then we mix that with also bringing in the some of the financial reports with the profit loss statement and the balance sheet, bringing those together, and if it's applicable, the cash flow statement. But we bring those together to give a business valuation. And we have experts who really know what they're doing in terms of business valuations, of looking at what the real number is, not the bank number, not just the flat EBITDA, but really recasting that to show what the heart of the EBITDA is supposed to show, and bringing those together to show what's the current valuation of the company, where are the gaps in the operations as well, so that we can look at, here's a current valuation, and if you pull certain levers and make certain changes within the organization, what can that do in terms of either cash flow or business valuation? And then we look at what the founder's goal is. And do you want to maximize your ability to cash flow, or do you want to maximize your ability to have an exit plan and to set up people who are going to be taking over the business if you're passing it on to kids or trusted members of the organization currently, or if you want to sell it and set up your retirement and legacy that you would then pass on to other people. And so it's really max bringing the numbers in with the valuation of the company. And a big part of the numbers for me is I don't think numbers should determine everything we do. But I do think that the numbers shouldn't be ignored, and they can inform the managerial decisions for how to move forward. So they can be those symbols along the way that we can look at and help decide what we want to do.
Yeah, that's good. So, it reminds me of a book on the topic called Walking to Destiny, and
It's a
the
great
Business
book.
Health Diagnostic has uh, I think all of those elements, maybe even more of what you might find in that book. But the book is great. And one thing I got from that book is this quote here, good exit planning is also good business planning. So whether a business owner is looking at exit or succession, I mean, you will eventually, regardless of if you're thinking about it right now. But the good news is, if you start with that end in mind, it actually is really good business planning for the today. And I'm a practical, like where the rubber meets the road. I walk with business owners in that space. And so it has to be practical. It can't just be like a pie in the sky, like, oh, cool. Like, almost like going to the retirement planning, advisor where, he's talking about, 30 years from now, you could have $5 million, yay, or $10 million or whatever your goal is. It's not about, I mean, it has that, but it's about what is it going to be right now? And we've packaged the Business Health Diagnostic into kind of an entry-level program we call Business Freedom 360. It's a suite of tools that has the Business Health Diagnostic as probably the center point, but it's also like an executive field manual. Like, how are you going to use this today? How is this going to impact the next 30 and 90 days? And the business intelligence briefing, which is a major part of the interview and the delivery of what Jeff does. An operations plan, a tax briefing, like, hey, are you paying way too much in taxes? Actually, probably alarm bells alert, hear the alarm bells going off. You are probably, if you're a business owner listening to this podcast, probably paying more than you need to in taxes. You probably know it. You probably feel it in your gut, but you think your CPA is like, oh yeah, my CPA, I've got a CPA. I love that guy. He handles it. Yeah, we've seen it over and over again. If you love the guy, it doesn't mean that he's a tax strategist. So we do that. We look at the tax strategy and a lot of times save you money there. And it's got some other bells and whistles as well. But that's kind of an entry level program that people come in and do that with us, get started with us. And if you're interested, that's at businessfreedomadvisors.com slash freedom hyphen 360. We'll put that in the show notes. But then Jeff, talk about the results. So, people, if they were to go there and start that process, enter their information, maybe upload some tax documents, some P&Ls, they give us a lot of financials. We do some interview process, like you were saying, to get to the heart of the matter. We're very holistic here. We want to take the founder and provide a path to freedom for them, even if they're feeling stuck or in a chaotic mess right now. That's what we do best. We fix that. But then, there's a point where you've done the analysis, the financial analysis and the architecting of what's next. And then that's not it, right? You give them, like I mentioned, that business intelligence briefing. Where does that go? And then you got 60 seconds to talk about that.
It's the beauty is making the complicated simple, really, is what I like to do, and bring in complex ideas and simplify it to a place where it's actually usable. And bringing a lot of it is just reorganizing how different elements of the company are presented, and so that you can understand them, because numbers in and of themselves don't mean anything. It's really being able to read, what does this mean, and interpret what it means to the right people. And so there can be elements where, for instance, one person we've worked with has an auto loan, an airplane loan, and certain elements that they charge to the company, and they were looking to sell their company, and those expenses were being removed from the value of the company, when really what the person coming in to purchase the company wants to know is, if I purchase this, how much money am I going to be able to count on? And those.
All right, pause right there. We need to take a break, and then we're going to come back and pick it up right there and go deeper into the financials and how it all comes together. So let's take that break.
Sounds good.
All right, back to you, Jeff. You were just talking about an example of somebody who had an auto loan, an airplane, and you're getting into the deeper financials. What's next there?
Right. So when you're purchasing a company, you want to know, how much money can I be receiving from this company on a yearly basis, monthly basis. And so you need to remove some of those fringe benefits, so that, or there's some tax strategy that could go into that as well, that makes the business look like it's not as valuable as it is just on paper, or what you're having to pay to taxes, or the bank value. So if you actually reorganize the numbers to look at the truth of it, of what does this company cash flow, then that completely changed this one client's valuation, where his offer went from 1.7 million up to 4.5 million, just because of looking at the numbers the right way. And then also with the business valuation, there is an element of, how well is this company run? And the better it's run, the better people it has. Those are all assets, not on paper assets, but company operational assets. Those assets make a big difference for how attractive a company is to own. So if we help to maximize those kinds of personnel assets and other operational assets, then it helps to actually bring up the multiplier for the company up to a higher level, because there's a range of multipliers. And so if you're able to bring that up, it makes $100,000, a $10,000 difference that you make in your operations. If that can turn into $70,000 of more income or more for the company.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of my eyes were open when I first read the book Walking to Destiny, and that idea that there's other intangibles that add to
Mhm.
the value of the business. If you think about it, business owner listening, you get this intuitively. You know that if you happen to be in a place where built this business to a place where it's growing, it's profitable, it's meeting a lot of income goals, but you kind of feel like almost like a slave to the business. Like, could you walk away from that business for even a week? Um, and if you can, fantastic. Could you do it for a month? Could you do it for 90 days? If not, then you have a glorified job. You've built yourself a job. Congratulations. What if you had a business that was just a part of your balance sheet, your wealth creation? And that's kind of the bigger picture. Our wealth creation, the business is part of that. You might have a retirement plan, you might have a qualified plan, but your business is probably your biggest asset, maybe your house, but maybe probably most likely your business. And if you can't walk away from it for a little while, you have a job. And that's a big part of what this whole process is. So again, that intuitive instinct, like, okay, what are the team members adding? What are the SOPs? Like, why can't I walk away from it? Those are those intangibles that don't necessarily show up on the balance sheet, but add to not just the valuation, but your freedom. And that's what we're all about. We are business freedom advisors. We want to help you get unstuck. We want to bring uh, systems and process and a stable situation to a chaotic situation. And that's what we do, and that's what we help with. But if you don't have that right now, that's all part of that's all fixable. And not only is it fixable for you and your freedom, but you get the added benefit that it adds so much to your value, to your wealth building balance sheet. Do you want to speak to that more, Bill? Or, where did Bill come from?
No, absolutely. You talk about it in your book that's next to your head there, and the balancing act is it's really creating the life that you want and not allowing other factors to run your life. And that's part of why I sold cars. My wife redid furniture for a while early on in our marriage when we didn't want, just because we felt like there was a job we were supposed to take. It didn't mean that that's the amount of money we were supposed to have in our life. We wanted to create the life that we wanted. We wanted to be able to We started flipping houses because we wanted to create an experience for our kids where we could take them to Disneyland if we wanted to. It's We're not going to accept those limitations. And what you're talking about is taking that to a next level, which is the skew on freedom that you really bring and drives you, is really creating the life that you want. And nobody wants to just be stuck in a job, whether they own it or not. If their name's on it, doesn't change it fundamentally. And so, really helping companies and founders to be able to come to the place where they are determining what their life's going to look like and they have the freedom to live the way they want. And it, if basically everyone can do that, most people at least can do that, but it takes people, sometimes it takes people with a different kind of mindset to come alongside you to help you get out of the box that you've been in to be able to
Mm.
see that. I mean, I've had those people, you've had those people, which is why we think the way we do.
Yeah, I almost bristle when you say anybody can do that, because um, that's why we have a trimetric view of things. So your business health, it's a pretty scientific process. There's some art to it, but mostly science. Your life quality, that's about intentionality. That's about, putting the first things first that are important to you. But the third part of the trimetric is executive performance. And that's where I'm like, wow, not everybody is cut out to be a top performer in leadership and executive performance. Now, it is a skill set you can build. So if you're a young person in your teens or younger 20s, like dive in, like read the best books, How to Win Friends, Influence People, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Like, get the best books into your brain and become the best leader you can. But if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s and you're building this business, then measure your executive performance. What are the spots that you could improve on? And I love the quote from Brene Brown. I think she got it from somewhere else, but if you're a gladiator doing the things in the arena, you're not on the sidelines on the spectator rows. You're in the arena. You're getting bloody. You're getting beat up. There's some ability to do more and better with that if you measure that executive performance. So unfortunately, Jeff, we're out of time. I'm sure you have more to say, but we'll pick it up next time. And I want to, if you're listening, if you want to take a next step, a baby step, we've got a free, really snazzy quiz for you. It's TrimetricQuiz.com. That'll get your foot in the door. That'll get you started. That'll put you on our radar. And you're thinking, gosh, I want to have this. I want this business valuation on steroids. I want to know all these things. That's your next step. TrimetricQuiz.com. No cost to you. Take the 10 or 15 minutes to fill out the questions. That's going to give you a Trimetric snapshot for free. The scheduler is right there at the completion of the quiz. You schedule, you'll get on our calendar, and then we'll talk to you about that business health and the executive performance and the life quality and how you can balance all those things and get your wealth creation and your balance sheet to a higher level. That's where we're at for today, Jeff. Thanks for being with me on the TriMetric Roadmap Podcast, and stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the TriMetric Roadmap powered by Business Freedom Advisors. I've been your host, Scott Landis. If you're growing a business but something still feels off, you're not alone. That's exactly why we created the Trimetric Quiz. It's not a personality test. It's a powerful diagnostic tool that shows you where you're in alignment and where things may be silently slipping off track across your business, life, and leadership. It only takes a few minutes, and the clarity you'll gain is a game changer. Go to TrimetricQuiz.com to take the quiz now before the cost of staying stuck gets any higher. Until next time, stay focused, stay aligned, and keep building a business that truly supports your life.